Hello and welcome back to the channel. So here we are at Pewsey Downs, my old stomping ground. Been here several times, but a couple of months ago I came across this interesting set of earthworks and I knew nothing about it. A ditch with a bank either side that stretches on for as far as the eye could see. So naturally, I wanted to find out more about it. I went home, did my research, and this turns out to be Wansdyke. I'm off to a 33-kilometre stretch of linear earthworks in Wiltshire and North Somerset. Now, just about every paper, document, book, article, website states that it was constructed in the 5th century as a defensive set of earthworks. At the time when the Anglo-Saxons had arrived and the Britons were trying to keep them out. Now, I don't believe that's entirely true. Wansdyke is one of the largest earthworks in Britain, formed of two main sections. A 14-kilometre eastern dyke, known as East Wansdyke, which runs between Savernake Forest and Morgan's Hill in Wiltshire. Then there is the 19-kilometre western section, known as West Wansdyke, which runs from Monkton Combe to the ancient hill fort of Maes Knoll in historic Somerset. Between these two dykes there is a 22-kilometre middle section, sometimes referred to as Mid Wansdyke, but it is formed by the remains of the London to Bath Roman road. It used to be thought that these sections were all part of one continuous undertaking, especially during the Middle Ages when the pagan name Wansdyke was applied to all three parts. However, it is now not thought that this is correct. So what is Wansdyke? And when was it built? Well, there are several theories, and some more accepted than others. The most common theory is that it is a large linear defensive earthwork that was built by the native Britons in the 5th century as a defensive measure against the encroaching Anglo-Saxons, who were expanding their territory from the north and east. It is also thought by 519 AD that the West Saxons, who would later come to create the Kingdom of Wessex, had their advance halted somewhere along the Hampshire-Wiltshire border. This theory is supported by the 9th century Historia Britonum, and specifically its narrative of the Battle of Mons Badonicus. In this battle, the native Britons, supposedly led by King Arthur himself, hit a decisive blow against the Anglo-Saxons and prevented them from gaining any more land for at least the next 50 years. Unfortunately, there is no written account for where the Battle of Mons Badonicus actually took place, but one of the more popular theories was that it was around the area of Wansdyke. During the late 5th century, this Somerset/Wiltshire area would have been the frontier of where native Briton lands met Anglo-Saxon territory. It would have made sense that the local Britons would have built some sort of defences, knowing that the invading hordes were coming their way. Another theory behind Wansdyke was that it was built by the West Saxons to stop the pesky Britons from trying to retake their lands. The main argument behind this is that Wansdyke literally means Dyke of Woden, Woden being the Anglo-Saxon god who used to carry the dead up to heaven. If indeed the Battle of Mons Badonicus took place near Wansdyke, then the huge losses that the Anglo-Saxons would have incurred may have led them to naming the dyke after such a god. Another, less popular theory is that the wall was built by the Romans themselves as a defensive measure against local Britons looking to take advantage of their crumbling authority in the late 4th century AD. Some recent Roman coin finds around the Wansdyke area may give weight to this argument, especially as the coins were struck during the final few years of Roman occupation. This argument is also backed up by the fact that Wansdyke is very similar in design to other late Roman earthworks, such as Bokeley Dyke in Dorset. Another theory was provided by the archaeologist Mortimer Wheeler, who produced an analysis of the dykes of southeast England and suggested that they were not primarily military structures but political boundary markers. I then came across a fascinating article by Robert John Langdon, a writer, historian and social philosopher, and author of the book Prehistoric Britain, available on Amazon. He disproves these theories and provides overwhelming evidence stating that Wansdyke was in fact a prehistoric canal system constructed between 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. Since reading his work, we have spoken several times, and he has kindly allowed me to reference his research in this video. I will provide a link in the description to his fascinating website. In his article, he states that the problem with all of these theories suggesting that Wansdyke is a defensive structure is that there are so many gaps in the dyke. Furthermore, it just stops in the middle of a field on the eastern side. The question that archaeologists fail to answer is, why stop there? If they had continued building the dyke another 6 kilometres, they would have reached water, a natural boundary, or even just turned south, and that's a mere 3 kilometres. To the west it's even worse. They could have gone south again and connected to the river, using that as a natural defensive boundary. But no, it all just stops dead. Therefore, any attackers could simply walk round the side of Wansdyke, avoiding the so-called defences altogether. Further evidence that Wansdyke predates the Roman invasion is a drawing produced by the first British archaeologist, William Stukeley, in 1724. The Roman road is clearly drawn above the Wansdyke ditch, and then cutting through the dike's bank. This is impossible to do if the bank and ditch were built after the road. In the late 19th century, Lieutenant General Pitt Rivers excavated a section of East Wansdyke at Shepherd's Shaw, near Devizes. His findings suggest that Wansdyke was built earlier than the current expert theories of Saxon Britain. In one of his cuttings through the ditch and bank, he noted that at one's house there is a break in the line of the dike, which is occupied by the site of a Roman station of Veluccio, where quantities of Roman pottery are scattered on the soil. He also found vast amounts of pottery and iron nails in the bank of Wansdyke further down the earthwork. This implies that the Romans placed their settlement actually on the dike, as it may have still held water 2,000 years ago. His notes stated, "Very little silting had accumulated on the banks, but in the ditch it had collected to a depth of 3 feet in the centre, showing that the main purpose of the dike was to take water, like a canal." Pitt Rivers produced a series of detailed cross-sectional drawings which showed 2 significant findings. Firstly, the ditch's fill was spread over both sides of the ditch. You would not do this if it's a defensive feature, as you would want all the high ground on your side to help defend. Secondly, and most importantly, the bottom of the ditch is flat. You do not make the bottom of a ditch flat if used as a defensive ditch or boundary marker. Plus, you'd be doubling the time it takes to make the ditch. Wansdyke was constructed just 3 kilometres north of the Kennet and Avon Canal. If Wansdyke was a prehistoric waterway, it could have achieved the same purpose of joining the River Thames to the Bristol Channel, but some 6,000 to 8,000 years before the Victorians' Great Canal System. At 33 kilometres in length, 620,000 cubic metres of chalk would have had to be removed from the Wansdyke ditch. This is 5 times more than what was excavated at Avebury, and 2.5 times larger than Silbury Hill. So, according to Atkinson's calculations at Silbury Hill, we are looking at 45 million working hours, which equates to 100 people working 12 hours every day for 102 years. As a comparison, it took the Victorians 100 years to build the Avon and Kennet Canal, using metal tools and steam engines. Furthermore, the Victorian Canal was only 1.3 metres deep and 6 metres wide, whereas Wansdyke is twice as big in places as the Victorian Canal. If you study a geological map of this area, you'll quickly notice the endless twisting rivers that once flowed on and around the Wansdyke earthwork. These are called superficial deposits and consist of sand, silt and pebbles. This is evidence that, once upon a time, rivers formerly flowed in these, what we call today, dry valleys. During the last ice age, Britain had been underneath 2 miles of ice, compressing the ground by its sheer weight, so much so that the land surface was then some 2,000 feet below its original level, which has consequently risen back slowly to become the landscape we know today. At the end of the Ice Age, sea levels rose considerably. Britain was covered in meltwater and rivers were much larger and faster than today. If we add the known prehistoric groundwater rivers to the map of this great ditch, we find that springs would feed the ditch naturally, flooding it, and there you have yourself a canal. This 21-mile canal links the River Thames to the Bristol Channel, just like the Avon and Kennet. This also explains why there are so many gaps in Wansdyke, either side of a dry valley. As 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, these valleys would have been flooded. The canal linked these rivers across Wiltshire and Somerset. The weakness and final demise of the Victorian canal system in Britain was the fact that they were slow. The Victorians had to build at least one lock per mile of the canal to keep the water high. The Kennet Avon, for example, has over 100 locks, whereas the original prehistoric canal had none, as it relied on the natural groundwater table levels to fill the canal. Therefore, it was straighter and shorter in length than the Avon and Kennet, and would have allowed them to travel from the Thames to the Bristol Channel almost 100 times faster than the Victorian barges. This dyke was built over hundreds, if not thousands of years, which reflects not only the engineering and organisational skills of this advanced civilization, but, furthermore, the sophistication and complexity of this trading society. Personally, I can't believe what's written in the history books today. There's just too many holes in their story, their theories. Why does the ditch at the eastern end ends abruptly in the middle of a field? Why are there so many gaps, deliberate gaps, throughout the dyke? And why is there Roman coin and artifacts buried on top of Wansdyke? It doesn't stack up. So for that reason, I'm siding with Robert on this one. And Wansdyke was a Mesolithic canal system built 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. But hey, that's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know down in the comments what you think. Was Wansdyke a defensive set of linear earthworks? Was it a boundary marker? Was it built by the Romans to keep the Britons in control? Or was it a 6,000 to 8,000 year old canal system? Interesting stuff. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I found this fascinating. I just want to say thank you very much to Robert John Langdon for allowing me to use and reference his research. Thank you, Robert. And until next time, see you later, folks.